I'd like to welcome everyone to TC Live. Today we're speaking with Josh Nzewi, who is the CEO and founder of Easy. Easy is the world's first fully automated smart marketplace for trading smartphones and mobile electronics in wholesale quantities. Josh is a two-time Y Combinator alumni. I think that's something, and he began his career at Shell USA, where he learned about the commodity-driven markets. While at Shell, he became aware of the second-hand smartphone resale market and discovered the many inefficiencies and fraud within the space. He then decided to leave Shell to focus on these problems within the broader electronics resale space. I'm glad to have you here, Josh. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So right off the bat, I'd like to say, can you just share, so now this to Josh, can you just share what the experience really was? How did you discover the challenges or the inefficiencies within the space? I'd like to hear how that works.
Yeah, for sure. So first getting into the space, we were working as traders ourselves. So the way that I started off is I would buy these devices, these used devices from individuals off of places like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist, and then I'd resell them online. And so I started getting more into exporting these devices overseas, mostly into Hong Kong. But the more that I started, delving with these devices, I started thinking to myself, what if there's a market for these devices in Nigeria? So we started looking into the market, reaching out to my aunts, uncles, cousins to go out and kind of figure out prices. And immediately what we found was there was inconsistent pricing all around, right? So there'd be different wholesalers you would work with within Computer Village, retail stores that would all offer you different prices. And that was the first inkling that we had that there were some big inefficiencies in the market. So we started shipping devices there because the prices were great, and we started immediately kind of feeling these inefficiencies. And one of them, the biggest one, even still today, is logistics. So you would ship devices here from the United States into Nigeria, and it would take sometimes 2 to 3 weeks for the devices to get there. And then even just navigating what companies to use to export devices into Nigeria was always tough. We did a lot of research, asked a lot of friends and family to see what were the best companies to use. We got burned a couple of times using some of these companies. Devices ended up going missing, but we just kept on pushing ahead on the course. So logistics was hard to figure out. I think that was one of our biggest pain points for a long time. And even we experienced some pain points even today in terms of transit times. And I would say as one last thing, and I think it's a contributing factor, is the inconsistent supply. So you'll see that, some people are looking for these devices and aren't able to find them. And they are quite accessible here in the United States, but in Nigeria, it's a bit harder to get them, especially if you're exporting them from overseas. So those are kind of the inefficiencies we found in the market and still exist today. I think there's a lot of room for growth and improvement.
Yeah, so I'm curious as to how the idea initially started. Before I delve into a lot of the technicalities.
Yeah.
So we're buying used phones and reselling to make money out of some financial crunch or something.
Yeah, so it wasn't a financial crunch, but it definitely was to kind of pad my pockets a bit more. When I first started, I was working at Shell at the time. So this is kind of a side gig that I had going on just to, put a little extra money in my bank account. And as we started, trading these devices online, we realized that the market was a lot bigger than we had ever imagined. And as I'm saying, I'm talking about my co-founder, David. And so as we were doing this, we realized, there was a big export market in Hong Kong. And then realized that these export markets were really in all emerging markets, right? And that was kind of like what led us to, look into Nigeria as a place to export these devices to. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it does definitely. Yeah. So again, I'd like to share, if you have any question, you just drop your question. I can see someone asking that they have a question. I mean, just drop a question either in the chat box or Q&A section. And when time is right, we'll take it up from there. Yeah, so from the beginning, I imagine like it's you're dealing in containers, or how many units were in each container, and how did you finance that?
So our packages, thankfully, are not that big.
I mean, at the initial stage.
Yeah, initial stage. I mean, so thankfully for us, the used smartphones aren't that big, right? So we were just shipping, large boxes into Nigeria, not containers. So we're using all air freight, and even for shipping air freight, it would still take 2 to 3 weeks for the devices to reach Nigeria, surprisingly. So typically, I mean, we're dealing with boxes that maybe anything from like a foot cubed to a 1.5 foot cubed worth of devices, and that'll carry a good amount of devices per box.
Great. Just so that the audience have a very good understanding of your business, of what you do. So I'm asking some really. So what were the kind of devices that this market really like or preferred?
Yeah, so specifically, we dealt with iPhone specifically. That was the device choice that we worked with the most. So we've started to delve into laptops, tablets, wearables like Apple Watches or AirPods, but iPhones were our bread and butter.
Great. So when you ship them to Nigeria, it's picked up by a wholesale reseller, right? You have a contact here.
Yep.
Okay.
So yes, so typically it would be one of our sales reps that would receive the devices and then distribute them out to like the paying vendors. Yeah.
Okay. So at what point did you really scale? At what point did you begin?
So I think the point in which we began to scale was in the beginning of 2020. We had been in the space ever since like late 2017, but that was really just us being a wholesaler. So in 2020, we really started Easy Wholesale, and that's an online platform where buyers and sellers can interact and buy from each other. The whole premise behind this idea was we understood that there were lots of wholesalers here in the United States that weren't catering to markets such as Nigeria. They didn't even know that it existed, right? And our platform was a bridge between Nigeria and the United States. What we did is we found some of the best suppliers that we could find in this space and onboard them onto the platform. So these were the guys that we found that had the lowest defect rates, they had the lowest prices, and it made the most sense to bring them onto the platform to start transacting directly with Nigeria. So this is the point in which we started to grow. It was the time we also went through Y Combinator, and it was interesting that some of my batchmates actually helped us find a lot of clientele in Nigeria as well. And so this is at the point we started, shipping devices to Nigeria regularly.
At the beta testing phase of the business, before you really began scaling operation, what was the profit margin like buying from people in the US and then reselling here in Nigeria?
Profit margin, it was anywhere from 20 to 30% was the profit margins that we saw as you're buying from individuals, United States, and then exporting them overseas.
Okay, yeah. So I said, what is the difference that you have noticed between the African market and the other markets where you operated? What are the main differences that you noticed so far?
I think so. I mean, the main difference I would say is on the logistics time and the time it takes to ship devices there. For other markets that we have worked within, it's a much quicker process. It's much it's much quicker to ship devices into the country. I think there's more price discrepancies within the Nigerian market, and not only just like if you're looking even at like a city level, but also a country level. So the prices in Abuja or Port are very different than what you'd find in Lagos. And then even within Lagos, you'll find price discrepancies amongst all the vendors. So I think the price discrepancies are a bit larger, and I think that's because the supply is inconsistent, and then also sources of those devices is different as well. I think that's what causes the pricing to be different.
Cool. So right now, like, what's the frequency of shipments to Nigeria?
So we are shipping to Nigeria just about every week. So once a week, we ship to Nigeria. We have a number of freight forwarders that we use now. Some that we have made good relationships with, others that we're kind of a bit weary to work with. But yeah, we have like a number of freight forwarders we work with now. And yeah, so about every week we're shipping there.
Wow, that's massive. That's massive. Like, who are the distributors that you have, partners that you work with within Nigeria? Oh, by the way, outside Nigeria, are there other African operations, key like African operations? We haven't
focused on other African countries just yet. It's been just Nigeria that we've been focused in. Yeah, but we do serve some other markets currently, like Mexico and Ukraine as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, for Nigeria, is it just Computer Village? Are there other like basic, massive computer hubs that you work with?
So right now we're currently we have some vendors in Abuja, and then we have vendors in Computer Village. So it's either one of those right now. Yeah. And
at this expanded stage where you are really scaling, the focus is still iPhones, and are you shipping Android devices?
We're not shipping Android devices as much. We've mainly been focusing on iPhones, but we're really looking to push into the Android field as well. And that really just comes along with us onboarding vendors who deal with that specific stock, and then advertising that stock to people in Nigeria and seeing if that's what they actually want.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought probably Android devices is, because of the kind of market share that Transsion devices have here. Yes, I'd have thought like, Android would be the thing.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think it is. But it seems like for the iPhones specifically, especially the used iPhones, there's always a demand for the iPhone. I think that's been something that we've seen universally, that even though the market share isn't as big for the iPhone, there is a lot of demand for it. And that's what has kind of kept prices like pretty, I would say, stable, I guess, throughout the last 2 years. And why we focus on it mostly. It's the, I guess, the most predictable device to work with. I kind of spoke a bit about, price discrepancies, but price fluctuations happen frequently. And if you're dealing with a device that isn't in that high of demand, the price changes can be drastic. And with that long transit time, you could end up, losing a lot of money while the device is in transit. So we focus on the iPhone just to build market share, but we definitely want to start working with Android as well.
Wow, that's an insightful point. Like I've never thought about that. The stability that comes with iPhone devices. I know that the Android devices are always launching, maybe because they are mid-range, they quickly lose their pricing.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, the iPhone retains its value.
It's very interesting. So apart from the mobile devices, there are you ship MacBooks too as well, laptops and all that. PS5, PS4s.
Yeah, so we deal with those devices. We haven't shipped as many into Nigeria yet. We were shipping the majority of our PS5s into South America. But yeah, they're definitely devices that we deal with. But yeah, I mean, just not overseas as yet.
Okay. I mean, I think we want PS5s in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Nice that you move them here.
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Cool stuff. Do you play PS5?
Yeah, I mean, so I actually, it's funny, is I actually have one. But the only game I played on my PS5 is a PS4 game. And that was God of War. So
God of War, Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty as well. Yeah.
Cool.
They're good ones. But I'm waiting for them to release more games.
That's it. Okay, all right, that's cool. Okay, so let's talk about the growth in the African market, the smartphone market. I mean, the African demography, we have a lot of young people, they are growing and they're getting more access to smartphones. So I'd imagine that the smartphone market is growing and that might mean good opportunity for you. But what is in comparison with the African market in comparison with other markets like South America, like you mentioned, where you play, what do you see in terms of comparison, which is faster, which has a more sustainable business approach to it? Just share your insights.
Yeah. So from what I've seen, I think, I spoke a little bit about the inconsistent supply, kind of the pricing discrepancies. The more drastic the price discrepancies you see within a region, it means that there isn't as much supply going into that region, or there isn't a company or system that has been created to allow for seamless distribution, right? And I think we've seen the highest levels of price discrepancies within the Nigerian market, right, as compared to other markets that we're working in. And I think that is because people are getting these devices from all different sources, and there isn't as high of penetration into these regions. That's one thing that we've experienced. I don't one of the biggest things for us in creating this marketplace was there are wholesalers who have these devices in the United States, and companies or individuals in overseas markets that need access to these devices, right? So bridging them through our platform it made perfect sense to us. And I think a lot of businesses never really focused on African markets, which is why the penetration into these markets wasn't as deep. And so through our platform, we're allowing them access, directly to these markets. And I think we've seen a lot of growth within Nigeria over the last 2 years. And I think there's so much more potential there. And really, we haven't even, I think, even touched the tip of the iceberg, being that we haven't touched any other African countries yet. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for growth. It's a bit tricky, and the waters they're hard to navigate, but I think there's a lot of growth potential there.
Great. So what are the risks that you really see now to this business? Like what could really happen and things would go like really red or haywire?
Yeah. So one of our biggest concerns is, security of the devices as they're in transit. That was one of the things that kind of we kind of burnt our hands early on. This logistics company that we worked with, and the entire package that we sent to Nigeria was stolen, right? And so we have typically our vendors will pay us up front, right? So the vendor had paid fully for the devices were received by the courier confirmed that, and then the devices disappeared, right? And so for us it was like, in this space, trust is everything, right? You don't have customers if you don't have trust. And that person trusted us with their money to get the devices to them. So we ended up just refunding the business completely, and tried to figure things out with the courier service. But that to us was like it was a painful experience, one that we'll never forget, so we definitely like had to do our research and figure out, like what logistics companies to use, what insurance methods we could use, just in case these devices went missing, and making sure that we had peace of mind for ourselves, but also for our customers, because it's never a good feeling, when you pay someone up front and you never receive what you paid for, right? And we want, like, our biggest thing is driving trust and efficiency into this market, and so that's what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, it definitely hurt, but we learned our lesson and we've moved on and become stronger because of it.
Great. So I'm hearing a lot of research to find the right partners, to find the right logistics partners.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So apart from like the security of the devices, any other challenge, any other risks that you see?
Yeah, so I guess and you'll probably laugh at this one too, the next one I would say on our bucket list was fraud. So depending, especially on how we were receiving payments. So we have to be really careful about people trying to take backward ways to send us money, to do business with us, right? So there were a couple of people that we were dealing with receiving the funds, and the funds didn't seem legitimate. And that was one thing we really had to watch out on, just to make sure that, we're doing things by the book, on our end, right? And that we're not letting bad actors, kind of get into our marketplace and disrupt things. So that was like another thing that we've really had to like work on and make sure that, we had the right systems and processes in place so that we know we're receiving legitimate money before we send any devices out.
Cool. I mean, this is looking interesting, like a James Bond movie. You just want to do business, but you're dealing with so many tricky situations.
Yeah.
How I'm particularly interested. How are you navigating? Okay, so you don't have to do that anymore. I was going to say the time that the goods spend at the port. I know for some people they have to struggle like delays and all of that. Like sometimes it gets to demurrage in the holes. But do you have any of those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, so we do. I mean, with us, the way our logistics companies work is they, will take care of the delivery. So the way that we see it is we're not even sure when the devices land to the port. We're just notified when the devices land to the warehouse, right? Or like the courier's warehouse. Recently, though, we've been seeing lots of slow shipping, like where typically it takes between 7 to 10 business days to ship devices or ship the package into Nigeria. Now it's taking anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to get there, and I would assume that some of that is because the package is getting stuck at the port. we don't have clarity into like that last leg of the process.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That's not good news. I mean, that's from days to a month. That's some wide gap.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
So yeah, it can be difficult to navigate, but we're doing our best to try to find ways around it.
Cool. So I mean, Nigeria must be a very, very lucrative market for you guys, considering the frequency of business. Which market is as close as Nigeria? Where do you think there's opportunity in Africa?
We know that that South Africa has a big market as well. And then also we're looking into expanding into Ghana next. So Ghana and South Africa would be the two next countries that we would want to jump into. Yeah. Cool.
So how are you financing your operations right now? I mean, they look like volumes coming in week after week. Looks like a lot of activity here in Latin America, across Mexico. So how are you financing that business?
Yeah. So after Y Combinator, we did raise some funding from some VCs actually in Nigeria, some VCs here in the United States, and then we have some global partners as well that invest into the business. The business is doing well from a cash flow perspective. So essentially, with that initial funding, we've been able to fund ourselves and keep the business flowing. And so hopefully we can continue to do that and continue to grow and scale this business to serve these regions at a much higher level of quality and service.
Cool. I wanted to ask this question earlier, but I forgot. While you were pitching at Y Combinator, what was your pitch deck like? What was the value proposition?
Yeah, so the value proposition was to centralize a marketplace that really has been like very fragmented from the very beginning, to allow like price transparency, and to allow people to transact with peace of mind, right? And so that goes from the type of devices that you order. Are you actually going to get what you ordered, right? Like if I buy an iPhone X that I expect to be in good condition, well, is that what I'll actually receive? Making sure that if someone pays for a device, that they'll actually get what they receive, right? So it was rooting out fraud in the space, rooting out all these price transparency issues, and giving people access to the inventories of all these companies in the United States that had never really looked into the Nigerian market. And so it was just kind of looking at this business on a global scale and giving equal access to everyone to these devices.
Cool. So I want to talk about policies. What do you think about policymakers so let's do a comparison first within the African context and then probably in other markets. How do you see policy as shaped or improve your business?
Yeah, so I mean, I think in terms of the biggest thing that we're affected of from a policy perspective with the Nigerian market is the exchange rate, right? And how policies have changed the exchange rate over time. We've seen like the Naira depreciating value. I mean, really since we started doing business in Nigeria, which makes it harder for African vendors to purchase through our platform, right? Because the Naira has gotten weaker. I think that has been like the biggest thing that we've seen. Also, I talked about price discrepancies and price fluctuations. So if you are dealing with a vendor and you allow them to pay on delivery, right? And while that device is in transit, if the price of the Naira drops, then that vendor is essentially paying you less when they receive the devices. That's something that we've experienced numerous times where, at the point in which we ship, the price is, is advantageous to us, but when it lands, it's not, right? So I think that's, from a policy perspective, that's one thing that's affected us doing business there the most. To my knowledge, there really haven't been any other like regulations that have been put in place that have prohibited the sale of used smartphones or made it more difficult outside of the exchange rate.
Cool. In comparison with what you've experienced in other markets, what have the other markets been like from a policy angle?
Yeah, so I think from a policy angle, there are some markets that we've never even done business in. There are some markets that prohibit the importation of these devices as a whole. And so I think that was, interesting realization coming into this space that, some governments didn't want, used devices ever entering the country. A lot of the countries that we have done business with, there isn't a lot of regulations. I think the biggest thing that we'll just see is import taxes, that they vary from country to country. But within those countries, they kind of make up for it on the back end by paying higher prices that, correlate with those import taxes.
Cool. Right. So as you continue expanding your operations across Nigeria to Ghana and other markets, are you noticing any changes, any evolution in the market? Maybe it's taste of the consumer, maybe it's some other sort of demand that you want. Is there any form of evolution that you're noticing?
We have. So I think and I think this is just, changing taste, but also, as the industry itself changes, you see different trends. So I think right after COVID hit in March, there was a huge supply constraint of iPhone 8 Pluses. It seemed like every vendor was really needed iPhone 8 Pluses, and they were super hard to find. So the price of those devices skyrocketed. By some of our estimates, they went up by 40% during that time period. So, since then, price or demand for the 8 Pluses has waned considerably. But newer devices like the iPhone 11, the XR, and the X are now in high demand. So you kind of see a consumer change in preference, but I think that may either be price dependent, because like the iPhone X and XR have fallen over time, or there just may be consumer preference differences, one for like a larger screen and then one for a higher quality phone. So yeah, it has changed over time.
So in terms of revenue model, I don't want to assume, but I know your revenue model. Is it just plain buy and sell, or are there other models in between there?
Yeah, so the way that our business works is we actually have sellers on the platform, and then buyers that come on it and purchase from them. And then we do take a profit or a margin on top of what the seller has posted the devices for. So just like an eBay or an Amazon, there's like a marketplace fee that we do charge per transaction.
Do you still directly sell to wholesalers?
Do we?
Yeah.
So what we'll do is if we're able to purchase at devices at a good price, we'll actually purchase those devices and then load them onto the platform ourselves. So we are essentially an additional seller on our own platform, right? So if there are good deals that we can go out and find, we'll add them onto the platform so that people can access those deals.
Cool. How have you marketed your business? So I am thinking, it might be easy to get suppliers in the US, your base is there, but getting acceptance in outside markets, foreign markets, doing the groundwork and finding the partners to work with, the wholesalers, might be a lot of work. So like, how have you marketed the brand, the Easy brand? What are the things that you've done? I don't think I've ever seen any Easy ad. So probably because I'm not a wholesaler, but I'm just wondering how do you get about this?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot of groundwork needed, because this space is all built off trust. We've been advertising heavily, through social media. So you find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. And then also, we tried to get onto like local forums. So like Naira is a place that we'll advertise a lot of our business on. So there are like a couple avenues that we're currently using, mostly social media. And then also, I think one thing that has helped is also word of mouth, right? So, as you are selling these devices we'll actually put like some marketing tools on the actual devices, which has brought us other customers. And then we did a video campaign, I believe it was 2 months ago, where we actually went and did interviews with vendors in Computer Village, and just giving people kind of a lens into, how these companies source their devices and resell them. I think also provided a lens into what we're doing in Nigeria.
Oh, cool. So the social media ads or the digital ads, are they targeted at wholesalers or the end user, end consumer?
Wholesalers.
Okay, great. So if I wanted to be a wholesaler on your platform, what would be like, how much I need to pay for it, for you to do business with it, or for me to find a buyer on the platform?
Right. So, I mean, it's always, we don't impose restrictions on vendors on the platform in terms of how much you need to buy, especially for your first order. So we'll let people come onto the platform, whatever you feel comfortable ordering, you can order. And so like we want to make things as easy for or first time buyers as possible. So you come onto the platform, you purchase whatever quantities you felt comfortable purchasing, and then we take the transaction on from there. Obviously, we hope that you'll come and purchase more in the future, but we don't have any minimum requirements. And then one thing that we've been working on is to integrate Naira payments directly into the platform. So right now we're working to allow for vendors to use Paystack to pay directly for devices on the platform. So there are a lot of improvements that are coming, especially for the Nigerian market, that we're really excited about. But as it stands right now, you could just get on and buy 2 phones if you want to start off with that.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's cool. I mean, I think that's a word for people in the audience. Want to buy smartphones, devices, what have you, great pricing. Just reach out to Easy. What's the URL, by the way? Shout out the URL to the rest of the team.
Yeah, so it's easywholesale.com. So easywholesale.com.
I hope you got that. Yeah. We're charging. All right. Yeah, so you raised an important point about payment. So before Paystack, what was payment like?
Yeah, so luckily for us, I mean, we've kind of had to do things the non-scalable way. So one of my uncles actually is a banker in Nigeria. So he would do a lot of exchange for us. So we'd have vendors pay into a Nigerian bank account, and then he would convert that and send us USD. So that's kind of how we navigated that in the past. But we're looking to make it more official and to kind of, root out some of the manual processes that we've been having to do.
Did you have any of this challenge in any of the other markets that you operate in?
We didn't have any of these challenges, but I would say we also didn't have those types of connections. Like there's no one, that I would say that like in like a Mexico market that I would trust, wiring large amounts of money to them, right? So I'm sure that if we did, it would have made things easier to operate in some of these other countries. But I mean, we have familial ties in Nigeria that allowed us to go and do business there with peace of mind.
Great. We have just a few more minutes in this panel session. If you have any question, please do remember to drop it in the chat box or the Q&A. Sorry about that. In the chat box or in the Q&A, please drop it. One more question before we move to the Q&A, and that would be, what do you consider to be the biggest impediment, to cross-border commerce for Easy?
I mean, I would say the biggest is going to be logistics. Yeah, logistics would be the biggest impediment. Outside of that, like it's really just trust, and then payment, to the payment exchange. Yeah.
Great. I mean, from what I've heard, I think you guys are doing a great job. You guys are doing a great job building trust, refunding a client or rather a retailer that didn't get their money. That's massive. That's massive. I had to take that. How much was it, do?
I mean, I'll say it was about $7,000 we had to refund. Yeah, cool. That one hurt, but it's a cost of doing business.
All right. So I'm going in right now for questions. Let me see. So somebody here has a question about insurance. So my question is based on insurance. Also, how the payment runs, and also how safe, fast, and secure is shipping. Yeah, so I think you've addressed payment. Which was very interesting. But I'd like to, what is insurance like? Is there any form of insurance?
Yeah, so one thing we've looked at is insurance with the logistics company itself, and then outside insurance. So there's international insurance that you can purchase for a package, and that's even outside of the actual logistics company, which is something that we've explored, especially for much larger packages that we've sent. And then depending on the logistics company that you work with, some of them will actually offer insurance, right? So at the point of reception, they always look at what is inside the package, right? So they know, so you're both aligned on, what is there. We have invoices to prove, how much the devices are actually worth. So for those companies that we use that do offer insurance, they will refund us if the package goes missing. Unfortunately, the first company that we worked with, and the package actually did go missing, did not have insurance, so we weren't covered on the back end. But I think having these things happen on packages that aren't as large kind of makes you double think on what insurance or what kind of standards or measures should we put in place so that doesn't happen again. So yeah, really like outside insurance, and then insurance, and then looking for logistics companies that offer insurance for those packages as well.
Cool. From Olivia, I think there's a very interesting question here. She says that in some export markets, counterfeit smartphones still exist. How do you go about verifying which sources provide best quality products?
Yeah, it's a great question.
That's about quality control.
Yeah, so one of the core benefits of our business model is we actually receive all the phones first, right? So let's say, you're a vendor in Nigeria, you purchase, 100 iPhone X's from a vendor here in the United States. That vendor is going to ship to us. We're going to do a verification of those devices. So I kind of mentioned this before. You ordered 100 iPhone X's, let's say in grade A2 condition, which is like a very good looking phone, right? So we'll make sure that all the devices that we receive are fully functional. Face ID works, the cameras on it work, the digitizer works, the volume buttons. We'll make sure that, the actual condition of the phone is a condition A2. So not that many scratches, like as up to the standards of the marketplace. But then also we make sure that all the phones are authentic. We actually, with the diagnostics software that we have, we can actually tell if parts within the phone have been replaced. So let's say, someone ships us the 100 iPhone X's, everything looks good, but we come to find out that all the cameras have been changed out. That would be an issue. So even down to the parts within the phone, we can tell if they're counterfeit or not with the software tools that we use.
That looks quite, I don't know, but it looks quite laborious. Having to go through each device, right?
Yeah.
So help me in a shipment box, like how many devices would averagely at the scale of the operation right now, how many would be in one?
I would say anywhere from 2 to 1,000 phones per package. I'm sorry, 20 to 1,000 phones per package. Each phone would take about a minute for us to check within our processing facility. So it actually goes by quite quick. We have a full warehouse and a team that goes through the process of inspecting the devices to make sure that everything works well. But I think it's like a extra layer of verification that that people need. I think one of the biggest draws for me to this market was, being in some of these like trade groups and seeing how many people are getting scammed or defrauded almost on a daily basis. It's like almost every day you see someone issuing, fake checks, someone receiving the funds and never shipping the phones. And like it's been a big issue. Even I would say not even only in Nigeria, but really globally, which we're trying to solve. So having that extra layer of verification allows us, even like me as myself, to make sure that, if I'm having business go through my platform, that the vendors are receiving exactly what they ordered, right? I think like that's why we can aspire a level of trust that other people can't, is because we're going the extra mile to make sure that we're delivering quality product.
Great. So just to clarify, for payments, when the wholesaler makes payments for a product, or any buyer for that matter, it comes to an escrow account held by Easy. It doesn't go directly to the seller.
Exactly.
Okay, great. All right. So someone asks, Solomon Fowle, I believe that's the pronunciation, says, are you considering crypto payments with inherent problems in transborder payments?
Yeah, so we have been exploring crypto payments. We want to use something like a stable coin, so USDC or USDT. But we kind of have a roadmap for the platform in terms of what payment choices we want to add. And first on the bucket list is adding Naira payments. So really want to be integrated with Paystack and make sure that we can start accepting Naira and then shift over to cryptocurrency payments afterwards. So yeah, it definitely is on our roadmap. It's something I can see being a huge help in allowing for easy transactions on our platform.
Oh, great. What type of warranty does Easy give, and can the customer buy extended warranty?
Yep. So right now we currently offer 30 days warranty. And then even on top of that, if there are any issues that that aren't addressed or that are missed by us. So for instance, there was a vendor the other day in Nigeria that purchased devices from us, and the battery percentages of the phones were lower than what he was expecting. And so I think like in the market, typically they want to aim for a percentage of 85% above. And so we actually just paid for them to replace the batteries on each of the phones. So there is that level of, okay, hey, we missed something on our part. Let's make sure that we correct it. But then also, we have a 30-day warranty. We're actually working on allowing people or allowing businesses a warranty of up to 180 days, and then if they want to, or if they choose to do so, even extend that warranty to a year through some of the underwriters that we're working with. So there are solutions we're working on where the phones are under warranty for a much longer time than 30 days, and then with the option to extend.
Cool. So we have a poll that would like our audience to please punch in about. I think we can find it in the chat box. Also, there is, the poll is popped up. Please would like participants or the audience rather to participate in the poll. Thank you. So there's a question, we kind of answered it earlier, but I don't know if there are more platforms. So it's from Clinton. He says that, what is your platform? Is it a website? Is it an app? You mentioned the URL website. So I don't know, is there an app about it? Are there other platforms?
Yeah, so right now it's just a web application that you can also access with your phone. And then we are working on building a mobile application as well.
Oh, great. How soon is that going to be launched?
We are hoping to have a mobile application done by the end of Q1 next year. Yep.
From Robbie. He says, is Nigeria your main destination for product from the USA? I think you answered that, but just so that you expatiate for the audience, you can answer that.
Yeah, so it kind of, I think right now, the two biggest markets that we are serving is currently Mexico and Nigeria. I think Nigeria is slightly larger than Mexico. But I would say we don't ship the majority of our stock there, but it is one of our biggest markets. Yeah.
Cool. This person didn't give his or her name, anonymous attendee. Have you considered having partnerships with a trusted Nigerian company that can help be a major distributor, so to minimize the risk of supply for order?
So, I mean, we've thought of it, but there haven't been any companies that we have worked with directly in terms of distribution. But it's something that we would be open to. I mean, the way that our platform works and kind of our mindset in this space is to allow direct access to these devices rather than through some other intermediary. But I mean, I guess depending on how much easier it would make people, or how much easier it would allow people to access these devices, we'd be open to it. But it hasn't been something that we've explored.
Okay, cool. This is from Paul. Paul says, great job, Josh. Have you thought of shipping devices from other places like China, which may have lower pricing?
Yeah, so we definitely have. The United States for us was the easiest for us to navigate and figure out, being as we have lived and operated here. And so we want to start off with the United States first and then expand into other countries. I think especially like with a country like China, there are lots of refurbished and counterfeit products coming from there as well. And so we want to make sure that when we expand to that market, we know how to navigate those waters before we start offering it on our platform.
Okay, cool. So these questions, there are some more questions dropping in, and there are follow-on questions to your responses. From Solomon again, he says, is the diagnostic software you use a proprietary software you built, or is it a software that you license?
It's a software that we've licensed. Yeah, so it's a diagnostic software that we use to check the functionality of the phones. Yeah.
All right. Then also from Ravi again. So do you give a replacement while my phone is being exchanged or repaired?
Yeah, so typically the way that it works is we pay. So if you're in the United States, we can give you a replacement phone. If you are overseas, it doesn't make sense for us to ship a phone to you, as that phone could take, anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks. What we do is we pay for the phone to be repaired by a technician. So while the phone, and typically, it'll take usually if the issue isn't that large with the phone, it should take a couple hours to fix it. So unless it was some catastrophic issue with the phone, like the motherboard went bad, which we usually catch, it usually isn't that big of an issue.
All right, that's interesting. By the way, does that mean like you have in-house repair teams?
So here in the United States, we do actually. A lot of the technicians that we've hired all have repair experience. So if there are minor issues like a bad microphone or a battery that needs to be replaced, we actually have them do that work in-house. Yeah, so typically we don't miss these issues, but if we do, we'll definitely make sure they're taken care of.
All right. Do you have offices here in any of the other markets that you operate in?
We don't have offices in any other markets, just in the United States.
Are you looking to? Do you need an office on ground in any of the markets that you operate in?
I think as we continue to expand, we absolutely will. Like a receiving center where these devices will go to. But it hasn't been something that we have focused on just yet.
All right, cool. One more question from Emeka. You kind of touched on this earlier on, but I guess maybe there might be a more specific answer to it. It says, hi, Josh. How do you deal with exchange rate fluctuation prevalent in emerging markets, especially in Nigeria? How are you dealing with it?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us, constantly we've learned, is as we ship the device, we do expect payment. And I think like that is like what protects us from large fluctuations in the price. On top of that, using the best logistics carriers that we know of to make sure the devices get to the vendor quickly, because timing is everything. And so we usually will ask for payment upfront, and so we know that the price at which we sell now is advantageous to us and also the seller on the platform, and then make sure that we get the devices to the buyer as quickly as possible.
All right. Okay, I see our poll is still in progress. All right. Anyways, I want to thank you, Josh. Thank you so much for taking our time to speak to us and speak to our audience as well, and enlighten us about the intricacies of e-commerce markets, interborder markets, and smartphone and electronics. It's been very interesting. Lots of enlightening things that you have shared. To the audience, thank you so much for joining in. We appreciate it. TC Live, our next edition is coming up on September 2nd. Please register when the order goes out. We also have the Future of Commerce. It's a major event on the 24th of September. We're looking at the major shifts in e-commerce, rather in commerce generally. Technology is changing a lot of things. Commerce is changing alongside it, and it's going to be a major event. You have major partners and sponsors as well. Thank you to everyone. This is TC Live is presented and managed by TC Insights, which is the intelligence and events management arm of TechCabal. We provide reports to clients. We handle and manage events as well. Please push some business our way if you have a report. I mean, easy as well, Josh. I mean, if you want to write a report about e-commerce or anything or that sort, TC Insights can handle that definitely for you. Yeah, please do not forget to subscribe to TechCabal Daily. There's so much good work about it out there. We have it there being presented on the slide. Subscribe to TechCabal Daily. If you're not subscribed, I don't know what you're doing. Every other person is getting like the summary of the biggest events on technology across the continent from that newsletter. It's subscribed. I mean, we have foreign investors. We have so many people, local players, regulators who read the TechCabal Daily with so many testimonies and testaments online on Twitter and across social media. Thank you once again. Thanks to everyone. And I say, have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.